She's everything, he's just the destroyer of worlds. The same-day premiere of two polar opposite blockbuster movies, Barbie and Oppenheimer, has become one of the biggest Hollywood success stories of recent memory, with both films seeing massive box office returns thanks to the internet phenomenon known as Barbenheimer. So how did a social media bit turn into the largest opening day of the year, and a release that some analysts are predicting could save cinema? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how and why this all happened, why it matters, and what Hollywood can do to keep this thing going. The origins of Barbenheimer date to over a year prior to its release, with the one-word eponymous quote retweet from the user Next Best Picture. According to knowyourmeme.com, yes, I'm citing knowyourmeme.com, the tweet referenced a phenomenon happening in Hollywood at the time where actors were either being cast in Barbie or Oppenheimer at a rapid pace. The tweet that really got things going, though, was this one, from Film Updates, that announced the simultaneous release dates to a solid amount of memeage, mostly aiming at the juxtaposition between the two films. As the release date approached, more and more people hopped onto the trend, and it's easy to see why. Juxtaposition works in everything: sweet and savory, light and dark, pink and atomic bomb. The differences, especially in the case of these two movies, are almost too obvious not to talk about. I mean, look at the side-by-side here. You're not going to ignore these films in the same way you're not going to walk by some 7-foot dude with a 4-foot tall girlfriend or an older Asian businessman licking a giant lollipop and be like, that didn't intrigue me, I'm just going to move on with my day.
Hold up. Did you just see that older Asian businessman licking a giant lollipop?
On one screen, they're showing a fantasy comedy about a doll, and on the other, a dark biopic about the creator of the atomic bomb. Every movie, hell, every story ever falls somewhere between these two films. Speaking on the surface level qualities, of course, because both movies cover many of the same themes: existentialism, death, American corruption, but that's a topic for another day. Even their marketing efforts were completely contradicting, with Barbie throwing the kitchen sink into their campaign with a promotional partnership with every brand you can think of, including a literal Barbie dream house on Airbnb, and Oppenheimer not doing much of anything, giving us a few pictures of Cillian Murphy and telling us to watch it in 70mm film, and yeah, nothing else. It's because of this calculated positioning strategy that these films were able to share the spotlight. Were Barbie to be marketed in a less over-the-top manner, and Oppenheimer to be marketed with a little bit more pizzazz, they would diminish their perceived contrast and eat into each other's profits. One of the reasons why Barbenheimer has seen the success it has, despite being two massive films, is that there's no real competition, even though that idea has been jokingly floating around on social media. The target audiences of these two films are so wildly different that any rivalry can only really be seen as playful and further accentuate the contrasting appeal of watching both movies. It also helped that the studios and filmmakers played along, not that that's not a pretty duh thing to do, but yeah. Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie holding up tickets to Oppenheimer and Cillian Murphy advising audiences to see both movies on the same day. Good idea, of course. Another thing, and why meme-led movies score so big with audiences, is that they call for watching the movie with your group of friends, which in turn sells more seats. Because it's an event. The friends I went to see Barbie with, most of them at least, would have never seen it were it not for us collectively being down to show up in pink, ready to laugh. Which brings me to my next point. When you see huge crowds dressed in pink outside your local theater, or hear people online discussing which of the films they're going to see first, you want to be a part of the action. Not just to see the movies, but to go to the movies, to have a collective cultural experience. Going to see these two movies is also sort of an appropriate form of broadcasting who you want to be. I think showing up to watch both these films illustrates that you have broad interests and carry with you a down-for-it-all nature that makes you look to others, and more importantly to yourself, as a more complete person. This is probably not a conscious factor and maybe a non-factor for a lot of people, but speaking as a very self-conscious individual, I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't have any contribution. And although FOMO and juxtaposition are in theory fairly easy and identifiable qualities for studios and their marketing agencies to replicate, Barbenheimer is undoubtedly a unique phenomenon, fueled most of all by good old word of mouth. Unfortunately for movie studios, this type of organic hype is going to be hard to replicate, because it can't seem forced and I think both movies also have to be just as good as these two were, which is hard to imagine because, well, this is kind of the only time it's really ever happened. We're getting into a whole nother topic, and this is very much subjective, but I think Barbie might be the best American big budget comedy since 22 Jump Street, and I think Oppenheimer might be Nolan's second best work. Even not talking specifically on how good these films are, these are releases from two of the most prestigious filmmakers of our time, and perhaps even more prestigious casts. Two movies of this caliber releasing at all is going to be incredibly rare, let alone at the same time. This, of course, has not deterred Paramount's social media team from trying to cook up #SawPatrol to promote the release of the Paw Patrol movie, which comes out on the same day, September 29th, as Saw 10. Many have ridiculed this, and for good reason. For one, it's an obvious attempt to replicate what worked for Barbenheimer, which, still being a week from its release at the time of writing this, comes across as very manufactured. More importantly, though, the strategy just doesn't make any sense for the films it's promoting. Paw Patrol is a movie targeted exclusively at little kids and their parents, where Saw is basically the opposite, an R-rated torture porn movie whose audience is even more specific. Yes, by definition, the content of these films are very contradictory, and yes, they do not have competing audiences, but because of their core characteristics, they don't even have the ability to be a double feature. Parents are not taking their 4-year-old to a Saw movie, just as people who like to watch people get tortured aren't going to buy tickets to a children's film. I do want to be wrong about this, though. If Saw Patrol is a success, then I think it officially confirms that cinema is indeed back. Moving forward, I think we're going to see a lot more Saw Patrol and related marketing efforts from the studios to capture some of the Barbenheimer magic, and I think it's a misdirected effort. The key takeaway here is an obvious one. Barbenheimer was created online, on social media, not in a boardroom. Obviously, as my last video on the guerrilla marketing campaign behind The Dark Knight illustrates, you can find a way to spur attention and hype, but that hype has to already be there. For these blockbusters, it's your job as the marketing team to try to build upon the hype, rather than try to start it. Because when you do try to force a trend, especially to younger audiences more ingrained to these social media platforms, it's overwhelmingly conspicuous. The key question is not how you're going to make the internet respond to you, it's how you're going to respond to the internet. If you're a movie studio, take the big ideas you are seeing people really resonate with and find a way to amplify it. If you're a low-budget independent film with no organic hype, this isn't really applicable advice, but for huge films like Barbie and Oppenheimer, it's a critical strategy to follow, so that the big movies that have the potential to get people back into theaters can get people back into theaters. And one more thing, if it hasn't been made clear by these two films, or the wild success of Everything Everywhere All at Once, people want original films. And I know that there's many talented people out there who want to make them, so let them do it. Thank you all for tuning into today's video. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends to support the channel. If you want to go above and beyond, I recently created a Patreon that I would love for you to check out. Any direct contributions absolutely mean the world, and you get access to a bunch of perks, so go to the link at the top of my channel page or in the description below to make a pledge. Thank you again, and I'll see you guys next time.